Hello, ladies, and welcome to the Beauty Shaman. So today is part 3 of a 4-part series that I am doing with the wonderful Tamara Keefe, business and life coach. Thank you so much for joining me, Tamara.
Oh, thank you for our third virtual play date. That's
I know, right? We're having way too much fun doing this, I think. So today in part 3, we're going to talk about wonder and gratitude and an unwillingness to settle for anything that minimizes us or shuts us down. And that has to do with wonder and gratitude. So maybe you can help us connect that, or, what do you want to talk about with wonder and gratitude?
Okay. So you can always re-record this, Suzanne, if you don't like this story, but I'm going to start with the story of my morning. Okay?
That was a good morning, wasn't it?
We were supposed to start a little earlier today, but real life, I have a very older, now blind golden retriever, and he's not. He's a yellow lab. Gosh, I had a golden retriever before. His name is Ziggy, and I don't know how to say this gently, but he went out this morning, ended up stepping in poop, and tracked it all over my house. So how does that relate to gratitude? Because then I spent an hour, cleaning the sidewalk, cleaning the floor, cleaning the carpet, cleaning the rug. And in that moment, those are the moments where, I could have settled for being angry, kind of berating my daughter who was up and supposed to be watching him, myself. I don't know. But there's a way that in that moment I could stop myself. And it's after years of practice, but I could kind of stop myself and just think of all the things that I am grateful for. I mean, even that I had time in that moment to do that. So, gratitude is really about noticing even in those difficult moments. And you know what we don't do sometimes is notice in those great moments, what are the gifts of that moment? And I have to tell you, one of the gifts of the moment this morning was I did kind of snap at my daughter. She's 15, and I was able to send her a text because she went off to school and just said, I'm sure that wasn't the best way to start your day either. I'm so sorry that, that was my reaction, and I love you dearly, and will you forgive me? And I got the most amazing text back from her. And so, gosh, there was even gift in the poop. Can I just say that?
Who knew, right? That poop was a gift. I know.
Who knew?
Yeah. I love that story. That's a great story because I think things like that can really throw us off, and I actually got really thrown off yesterday. I was on my way to a job, and I had to drop my daughter at school because of different reasons, and I wasn't planning for it, and I was afraid I was going to be late. And so when I got there, I was just I was like this, and so I had to stop and really talk myself down. And I think those moments are so important to not lash out around us, but to really stay in a grateful space. And it's very challenging. I think it can be very challenging to be there, but I think it's so key to not just wellness, like mental and spiritual wellness, but also to just moving forward in life, to be grateful for the challenges, be grateful for the good, be grateful for the bad, but to stay in that space. And I think it's a very, it takes concerted effort and awareness to stay in that space.
Yeah, people talk about gratitude, right? And gratitude is a very powerful way out of a difficult situation. For me, I like the word grateful because it shifts my thinking into, if I believe everything is full of greatness, is full of potential, it's full of something positive. I'm not saying bad things don't happen. What I'm saying is that given the right mind, right, the right voice that we might tune into, is there is something, there's a gift. Right? There's a gift in that that then we can be grateful for. I think it's hard when we say to ourselves, oh, I should be grateful that there's poop all over the floor.
Yeah.
I'm actually not very grateful about that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be grateful for that. Yeah.
yeah, I should have gratitude for that. What I am grateful for is the connection that my daughter and I ended up making because of that. And so I think if we even just turn that word a minute to, what can I be grateful for in this moment? If I believe everything is full of this greatness and this opportunity here, um, then I can feel gratitude, right? So gratitude isn't often a verb. You don't go out and gratitude, right?
Not usually. Yeah. Yeah.
Usually, but you can go out and be grateful. Do you see? That's kind of the action that leads to gratitude.
Right.
So
Yes.
yeah.
And I think when you're grateful, it changes your entire view of the world and life. And I remember at one point, this was several years ago, I was super discouraged about, I don't even remember now. Isn't that amazing? I mean, very discouraged, very down. I was ready to give up on pursuing my business. I was just very discouraged. And I remember going out and I was taking the dogs out for a walk or to pee or whatever. And I was standing over my dogs and I was crying and I was so mad and so discouraged. And I stopped and went, oh, wait a minute. Like, that's not going to change anything. So what are you grateful for? And it was so interesting. It was almost like an angel like whacked me on the head with a wand, wake up, chick. And I just started being very grateful. And by the time I walked back in the house, I was in a totally different frame of mind and thought, why am I thinking about giving up? Like, that's crazy. And of course, fast forward, I'm super busy. It's great. My business is thriving. But, I think that those are the moments where I think it's like you just have to stop yourself,
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm going to hold that image in my brain forever. It's kind of like the gratitude angel comes and whaps you on the head.
Yeah. And he says a bad word too. My angel says, the B word and says, wake up. He's got a bad mouth. Maybe because I do. But yeah.
I think our angels reach us in whatever way they can, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a couple things about that story that are important. Number one, thank you for sharing, your story as well, because I think it makes it real. Like, I'm not here to tell people life is easy, be grateful for everything, One of the things that I really liked, though, is that all of that happened in a span of, what, 30 minutes?
Yeah.
I don't know, but it was a short period of time, right? So sometimes I think we feel like this is a long process and I have to go have a retreat and I have to, but I still love that image of the gratitude fairy just whacking us on the head, which is really, again, about us consciously choosing what it is that we want to focus on. Okay.
Yes.
Because where we choose to focus, right, what we focus on grows. So it's a conscious practice. It's not something maybe that comes natural.
Well, and I've heard that one of the biggest decisions you ever make in your life is, am I a victim or am I empowered? And I think one of the great, this is my own take, but one of the great sort of lessons now I feel like for women is we are empowered. Like whether or not it's given to you or not, you can choose it. You can stop being sort of the victimized woman, and that we can go into politics. We're not going to do all that because we're focusing on the individual. But I feel like that's such a great lesson. I'm not a victim. I actually create my own life, my own reality. And what does that look like for me now? How can I create right now in the space I'm in right at this moment? And I feel like women are getting that. Like I'm surrounded more and more by women that are just like, oh no, I'm not putting up with the victimized mentality, but it's a conscious, like we're talking about this very conscious awareness of I'm not a victim, I'm grateful for my life and I can change it.
Yes, and I can just change my thoughts, right? Then your experience of life changes, So it's about where are we going to spend our time? The one thing that levels the playing field for all of us is we all have the same amount of time, okay? And so I went to this awesome women's meeting last night, and it's all about the talk was, what happens when women have a seat at the table? Sorry, I didn't know that small.
that out.
Okay. So, hold on one second. I'm going to actually turn my phone off. It's already on silent.
That's fine.
Okay. So I'm going to start with, I went to this awesome thing last night. How's that?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I went to this awesome, amazing meeting with women who were thinking about, like, what is it that we bring to the table that might be unique? And I think you are so right, Suzanne, that we as women right now are empowered more than ever to really own our own consciousness, to really consciously choose. Like we don't have to be a victim, and more we're not expected to be a victim. You know, we have all of our sisters here holding us up. And I have to tell you, I'm going to pull a paper up because I want to get her name right. But I met a young woman. Her name was Evelyn Luker. And she talked about, because one of the things that we were saying is like, who is a female hero of ours, right? And she said Helga was written on her name tag, Helga. And so, of course, I was curious. I said, who's Helga? And she said, she was my grandmother. And she was a Holocaust survivor, right? And so, of course, I was more curious. And I said, well, wow, how is she your hero? And she said, well, because of the things that she shared with us and how she lived her life after that. And she said, I said, well, tell me one of the things that she shared with you. And she said, I'm going to get this right here. She said, you can always be bitter or you can be better. And I think that is an easy way for us to really think about how we want to live our life. You know, do we want to be bitter about what's going on, going back to your victim mentality kind of idea, or do we want to be better? You know, do we want to find that place of being grateful, like doing that work, and then we can feel that sense of gratitude.
Well, absolutely. That's a great saying, bitter or better. And I'm like you, I feel like that is such a choice of how we are going to view any given situation. And for me, part of that choice comes in owning the fact that I somehow had a part in my history. Not that I caused it or that she wanted to be in the Holocaust, God forbid. But I think there's got to be some level of personal ownership so that we can say, I was there too, like in my marriage. I can look back and go, I was there. I was a part of all this. It's not all, how can it possibly be all of him? So how can I own that, take ownership? And I think some of the more tragic and victimized situations are much harder to deal with. And I'm not even going to attempt to. But I think in general, finding some form of ownership really helps to be grateful, because I'm super grateful for my marriage. I thought that was incredible. I learned so much. It took me into a whole different space in life. I'm so, so grateful. I'm so grateful for my ex-husband. We have a great relationship now. So I think that helps me anyway to shift over into gratitude.
And I think that when we're talking about that and ownership and what our part is, again, it's not that anybody's trying to create something bad. It's not like we wake up on Wednesday and say, oh, it's Wednesday. It's like create my crappy life day. We just don't do that. And when we can see our part in what we're creating, then we know we can change it. And that's truly empowering. So consciously choosing to be grateful is empowering. It means things don't just happen to us that then we have to feel or think a certain way. We actually have a choice. I just love Helga's sentence. You can choose to be bitter or you can choose to be better. And I think when we have a choice, when we realize, this is the thing, when we realize we have a choice about how we're going to experience something or process it afterwards. I mean, I think the more you practice, the more you can do that in the moment, at least for me. In the moment, I wasn't able to say to my daughter, oh, thank you for not watching the dog and getting poop all over my house. I should say our house, right?
Yeah.
In the moment, it was like my house. And yet it was really 30 minutes later that I was able to reach out to her and say, I'm sorry for the part I played, and I love you, and will you accept my apology? I wish you a great day. So I think the more we practice, the better we get at doing it in the moment.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's a fabulous takeaway to kind of close us out for this particular section is getting bitter or better. That's a great takeaway for people is, are you? And do you make that choice? Do you feel like that's the takeaway you want to have for this? Or do you have another one in your mind?
No, I think that is a really, really good one. I think what I want people to do is just realize that they have that choice. Mm-hmm. And so here's your practice. If Helga can speak to you, whisper to you in your mind, like, do I want to be bitter or do I want to be better? The better is finding the gift in that moment, in that experience, in something that somebody says to you that brings self-awareness. So yes, I want that voice in your head. Do you want to be bitter or do you want to be better? And the better is looking for the gift in anything that's happening, whatever that gift might be.
That's a fantastic takeaway. And a great thing for everybody to do, me included, is to work on that. Like, what is the gift in this? So thank you so much, Tamara, for sharing your pearls of wisdom to we women in our part 3 of life. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And ladies, if you'd like more of Tamara, and who would not like more of Tamara, go to blueopal.com. It's spelled BLUOPAL. I'll put it in the lower thirds. And Tamara is offering a 50-minute free session consultation with any of you who are interested. So thank you so much for watching The Beauty Shop.